Most people assume that all the real estate markets surrounding Calgary all behave in the exact same way, and that's simply not the case. In fact, Cochrane has been outperforming all of the other neighboring communities in sales numbers, in months of supply, and in home prices. So in this month's market update, I'm going to break down how it's outperforming, why it's outperforming, and what that means for you if you're looking to buy or sell here in Cochrane in 2026. So to highlight how Cochrane is outperforming these other communities, I'm going to break it down into three main categories. The first being sales numbers, the second being months of supply, and finally we're going to touch on the benchmark price. So first up, talking about sales, Cochrane has seen a 6.5% growth year over year in its sales numbers. And while this number is above long-term trends, it gets even better. Because when you look at Airdrie and Calgary, they are both 15% below last year's numbers. And Okotoks brings up a far distant third at 24% lower sales numbers than last year. Moving into category number two, we're going to talk about months of supply. Cochrane has seen a slight downshift here. Months of supply has fallen under 3. It's sitting right at about 2.9%. And that equates to about a 7% growth in supply over last year. Yes, we have more growth, but when we compare it again to Calgary, Airdrie, and Okotoks, that number becomes pretty inconsequential. Calgary's months of supply grew 18%, Airdrie's grew 30%, and again, Okotoks being the big outlier, growing 72%. So the inventory levels in those other three communities that tend to be the direct competitors of Cochrane are increasing substantially due to those lower sales numbers. Now, finally, the third category is the benchmark price. Cochrane's benchmark price actually fell 1.4% year over year. However, if we touch back onto the benchmark price at the start of this year in January, it's up almost 25,000 from about 550,000 to 575,000. Now, Okotoks was down 1.9%, so pretty similar. Calgary is down 3%, and Airdrie is down 5% year over year. So again, while Cochrane is down year over year, it still is outperforming those other markets and has seen substantial growth already this year. Breaking it down even further into detached prices, Cochrane saw a decrease in its detached benchmark price by about 3.6% over last year. Calgary and Okotoks were down 2.4%, and Airdrie was down 5%. Now, while Cochrane's detached benchmark price is down 3.6% year over year, just like the overall benchmark price, we have actually seen an increase since January of this year, where we were sitting at about 638,000, and now we're up at about 664,000. So we still have seen some substantial price growth over the course of this first few months, leading into the tail end of our spring market. Next up, we're going to talk about why it's happening. Now, when we get into the details on why we're seeing higher sales numbers, that one's easy. If you've watched the community tour videos or talked to anybody that's actually moved to Cochrane, you'll already know why the sales numbers are so high. Cochrane is a fantastic place to live. It's a great place to move to. It's very family friendly, and it is extremely close to the mountains. Canmore being super out of reach for most people, we've touched on that before, and Calgary just being so busy nowadays that Cochrane is that nice respite area where you can still be close enough to Calgary for the bulk of the employment, but you are closer to the mountains and closer to some really key recreational areas. Now, some data behind the increase in price and the decrease in inventory. Cochrane did see a slight pullback in the new listings, which is helping keep that inventory number a little bit lower. And then with the increase in sales, we're seeing months of supply come down. Cochrane's days on market has also shortened quite a bit in the last couple months. We were sitting upwards of about 45 to 50 days just a few months ago, and now we're sitting at about 33 days. So homes are selling quicker. When homes sell quicker, typically there is less negotiation on price, and that is reflected in the fact that the sales price to list price ratio is sitting at about 98%, and so you expect to be paying pretty close to list price for homes here in Cochrane. And so what does this mean for you if you're planning a move in 2026? First, I'm going to touch on the buyer side. If you're a buyer with the days on market dropping and sales numbers increasing, and the pullback on those new listings, there is a little bit less to choose from than there was a couple months ago. And with that, there is slightly more competition. So you will potentially have to make a decision a little bit quicker than you did just a couple months ago. That is not to say that we are in the COVID era where you are having to come in super high with your first offer or compete on every listing that you see, but just know that homes are moving a little bit quicker, and sellers, if they're watching this video, also know that that is happening. And now, sellers, it's time for you. We are no longer in that beginning stages of a buyer's market than we were in at the start of the year. We're in a much more balanced market. And so you are going to see a little bit less competition for your listing because we have seen that decrease in listings. However, we are not so far yet down the pathway back into that seller's market that's been around for the past 2 or 3 years. And so pricing is still your main competitive point when you list your home. Pricing too high will make your home sit on the market longer. So while we have seen a bit more competition here in Cochrane, it's not time to get lazy as a seller. We still need to do a really good job of marketing your property and coming to the market at an appropriate price. So if you are planning on making a move in 2026 in the Cochrane area and you have questions about how this market's performance will affect your sale or your purchase of your next home, reach out. I'd love to chat with you more, answer any questions you may have. I help people move and relocate into Cochrane every day, and I'd love to help you do the same. If you liked the video, found the content helpful, I would appreciate you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I can't wait to chat with you in the future.